Hi everyone, it's Albert Torcaso of Humanity Matters, and I wanted to talk to you for a second or two, more like 5 minutes most likely. You know, a few years back, I did a video, and I dressed up as a stereotypical mobster, had the black suit on, the white tie, and I did this video on seat belts. And of course, if you ever call my cell phone or you meet me in real life, you know that I'm always telling you, wear your seatbelts, wear your seatbelts. And of course, we all know that we see videos saying seatbelts save lives. Experts tell you, wear your seatbelt, they save lives. We have many laws throughout the United States. Wear your seatbelt, you can be fined. Seatbelts save lives. I personally have told you that, as you know. But I'm no expert. And I'm sure that when you hear the statistics and so-called experts, sometimes you're just like, yeah, right, sure. They're just saying that because they just want to tell us what to do. And Al's just saying it because he thinks it's the in thing to do. Well, let me tell you this. I have been a proponent for seatbelts since the first day I started driving. And I have been speaking about before even anyone on a state, local, or national level. Really, I was one of the first. And I've always said, you need to wear your seatbelt. They save lives. I even told you a few years ago how a seatbelt saved my life. Yeah, that was a blooper, but hey, I ain't cutting it out. But I even told you, it saved my life. And you hear all this, you're probably thinking, sure, but what about this? What about that? Seatbelts get on my last nerve. You know what? Sometimes seatbelts are a pain in the neck. I ain't gonna lie. But they do save lives. But I told you that before. I bring you something new each time I do something. So I don't want you to take my advice. I don't care if you take the advice of these PSAs or what have you that you see on TV. I'm going to tell you what I recently learned. I had a young man named Paul who was nice enough to work on helping me with some personal things in my house, some home repairs. He was a volunteer with the Pittsburgh Project in Pittsburgh, PA. And he was a volunteer, and he came in with a nice, wonderful group. And while he was there, I found out that he had been a paramedic for over 30 years. He's also a fireman. He's one of America's domestic heroes. But he was a paramedic for 30 years. So I said, Paul, I bet you've seen a lot of bad car accidents. He said, oh yeah. I said, I bet you've seen disembodiments and even decapitations. He said, oh yeah. I said, I bet you that's hard on your psychological situation. He said, well, we get counseling and stuff, but it is tough. I said, well, I bet you've seen tons and tons of car accidents. He said he had. I said, well, what about when people wear seatbelts? What's the story? How many deaths have you seen from people that wear seatbelts? You know what a 30-year paramedic told me? A 30-year paramedic told me in his entire 30 years, he only witnessed 3 people who died while wearing a seatbelt. 3 people in 30 years. 2 of the people, they had their seatbelt on, but a truck literally went through their car. There was nothing that could save their life because it literally went through the vehicle. So that's how 2 of them died. The third one had a seatbelt on, but only a partial seatbelt, because before the 90s, they had laptop, like just across the waist seatbelts. Well, this person had a across the waist only seatbelt, not the one that comes across your chest like this. And they were, unfortunately, they could only wear across the waist seatbelt. So what happened was the seatbelt did its job for the waist, but there was nothing protecting the upper torso, and the person died because of blunt force trauma to the upper torso, the chest, the face, what have you. And I think they may have went through the window, or not through it, but they hit it. But that was due to the fact that it was a lap-only seatbelt. But here's the thing. In 30 years, he only witnessed 3 deaths from wearing a seatbelt. He literally went through tens of thousands of accidents that he actually encountered in his 30 years. Tens of thousands of car accidents. And in all those accidents, people who were wearing their seatbelts lived all but 3 times. Now, if that fact alone is not astounding, consider this. He did not witness his first fatality with somebody who had a seatbelt on. He didn't even witness his first fatality for 15 years. 15 years went by before he even witnessed one fatality. So, the next time I tell you to wear your seatbelt, don't listen to Albert Torcaso. You should, because I know what I'm talking about, but you don't have to. Don't listen to Albert Torcaso. I'll tell you what you do. Listen to what a 30-year paramedic witnessed. In 30 years, only 3 accidents where there were deaths. Every other accident he ever witnessed that a person had a seatbelt on, they lived. So if you're a teenager out there, an older adult, someone who just gets tired of wearing seatbelts, someone who says, oh man, I'm only going across the street, consider this. Accidents have occurred, injuries, severe, and even deaths have occurred to people driving in parking lots. So that means if you're going from one end to the parking lot to the other end of the parking lot, or literally down the street, you must wear your seatbelt. Because you know what? Maybe you're only going a few feet, but that other person that may hit into you or you may hit into, it doesn't have any relevance. An accident can and will kill you if that's going to happen. It will harm you. It will hurt you. And it doesn't matter if you're 5 miles, 25 miles, or 1,000 miles away from home. So you need to wear your seatbelt. Not because I told you, but because a 30-year paramedic told me to my face. In 30 years, only 3 people died who had their seatbelt on, and 2 of them died because a vehicle literally went through their vehicle. Another truck went through their car. So yeah, you need to wear the seatbelts. And if you don't wear the seatbelt and I find out, I'm going to be very disappointed because I want to see you live. I actually care about you. I may never meet you in real life, but this is one producer, journalist, and host that actually cares. I'm going to get out of here. Keep watching Humanity Matters and keep visiting www.humanitymatters.org. www.humanitymatters.org. Until we meet again, this is Albert Torcaso from Humanity Matters telling you to wear seatbelts, because remember that you and humanity really does matter.